Good morning, class. Uh, Here it is, 7:15 in the morning. We're getting started very early. I am the only one here, so if you are seeing this, you are seeing it on a recording. I am coming to you with our class live this week, and you might hear a train in the distance. I think it's either a train or a steamship. Pretty sure that's a train. In the distance, I live yeah, that's a train. I live near the coast, and there's a port. I live on the coast, actually, and there's a port not far from my house. And sometimes when it's kind of quiet, you can hear the cruise ships blow their horn, blow their stack, I guess. But right now, I think what you hear is a train in the distance, or you may not hear it at all. Anyway, I'm under my tiki hut in lovely South Florida. You can kind of see a little bit of my backyard there. Some of the joys of living in paradise in South Florida. I have a pool and a tiki hut that I am blessed with. I thank God for those things. I really have enjoyed it and do enjoy them. The kids enjoyed it growing up. Speaking of human development, watching them different stages around the pool and how they played with their friends was interesting. Not a topic that I'm going to get into today, but just to make that connection to see when they were children, how they swim and play, and then how they were adults. So they're adults now. They don't come back as much as they used to, but as going through their different birthdays and parties and get-togethers, having friends over, the different interactions that would happen is a lot of fun. Anyway, so this will be a very short class live. Today we've had some things come up here, the family, that sort of necessitate that I finish this up and move along, unfortunately. Anyway, we could have had it yesterday, but it worked out that we can do it today. All right, nevertheless, let's get going. I'm going to go ahead and give you, before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and give you the secret code, if you will, that you can get credit for this being on this class live. And rather than a scripture, I'm going to give you one of my favorite praise songs. It's not a hymn, but it's a praise song. It's by a group called Mercy Me. I'm sure many of you have heard of Mercy Me. Maybe all of you have. And they're one of the most successful Christian bands, I guess you'd say, in our current times. Anyway, so it's Mercy Me, and the song is "I Can Only Imagine." You may be familiar with that song. If you're not, I recommend that you, if you like good music, to go on YouTube or whatever, Spotify or Pandora, whatever, and find Mercy Me, I Can Only Imagine. To me, it's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard, and that'll be our secret code, if you will. If you watch this recording and you tell me that is the secret code, then I will, of course, award your points. You've done a great job. This is week 5. We have 2 more weeks, about a week and a half to go. That's not much time. So if you have any assignments out there that have not been submitted, that's not very many of you, get those in, because I will not have time to grade them. The grades have to be in actually 2 weeks from today, actually before 2 weeks from yesterday. I have to have the grades submitted. So once the course shuts down on Sunday night, of week 6, not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday. That's week 6. That's when the course shuts down. The only thing I think students have access, the only thing you have access to at that point is the message tab. So you can't submit any assignments anyway, in the assignment tab. And then I've other things to do as well besides teach this class, and I've got a short amount of time to get everything graded, and then after that, submit those grades. So whatever is not submitted, that just gets it. I have to put a 0 in there. It's some administrative things that take some time. So I don't want to mislead you and think that everything can get done if you wait to the very last minute. That's not the case. So as soon as you can get your assignments in, and for those of you who are ahead, and some of you are even ahead, it's greatly appreciated if you can get those assignments in even early. I try and even grade the apply assignments on the weekend, or when I key on the weekend. Typically, if they're in, they're not due until Sunday at midnight. But if they get in early, I try and grade those, because once they're in, they're in. And I don't grade the discussions typically until Monday, because I give everyone a chance to post and respond to make sure you get as many points as you possibly can. So anyway, so that's just a heads up for you. So anyway, so your papers and your discussions have been going really, really very well. The depth of your thinking and processing is evident. Some of you have really sort of elevated the rigor in the discussions. Let me see something. All right. Well, anyway, so that's been wonderful. The apply assignments have been very well. I really hope that you've enjoyed the application assignment, where you have started, even as an egg, and worked through your entire development. I think it has been helpful to you. This is a great assignment that's put together by CCCK, Central Christian College of Kansas, and I think it really lends itself to helping you understand. So we're going to just talk about Erikson a little bit, and how our personality develops in middle adulthood. We could have looked at personality development in childhood, and we have done that to an extent. But today we're talking about middle adulthood and how our personality develops. I just went ahead on a couple slides here, and then I'm going to let you out so we don't take a lot of everybody's time. There is some stability. In fact, the research in the old wisdom especially said that your personality was stable throughout your lifetime, that it did not change and pretty much could not change unless there was some kind of trauma, like a brain injury or something along those lines. We know now that there are subtle changes, and what, like the slide says, personalities tend to mature rather than be shaped by environmental conditions. So it's not so much the personalities change, but they gel more, they mature more. I've talked to some students and some clients who tell me that they were one way when they were young, and they're another way now. And you can't say that a particular person necessarily hasn't had a big personality change in their life. In fact, probably some have. But typically, overall, the overwhelming majority of the people, their personalities do not change. I want to bring up, for instance, the Apostle Paul. I'm pretty sure that most of us are familiar with Paul's life, where he was persecuting Christians, even having them arrested, beating them, and even in the case of Stephen, either being part of the crowd that murdered them, or encouraging the crowd that murdered Stephen. And he had a dramatic change in his life, and it was something obviously that it was of biblical proportions. Jesus spoke to Paul, and Jesus confronted him and said, "Why are you persecuting my people?" I mean, this is a major thing in the history of the universe. But interestingly, while people say Paul changed, and he did, his personality didn't really change. I can make a case, he was really a strong personality, a very assertive and A-type personality when he was Saul. Remember, his given name was Saul. He was a zealot, if you will. He was out to, he believed, as the Pharisees had taught him, that these Christians were trying to, steal away and convert people to some kind of a cult, if you will, and going against religious teachings. Well, so he really went after them strongly. And even though he changed quite a bit, he went, his personality and his assertiveness and, you know, his A-type personality, that was still with him. It was just going, you know, sort of fighting for a different team now, if you will, if you can look at it that way. So his personality didn't really change. Now, there have been others who have become more meek. There have been others who were more like and who became more meek in lifetime. And so, yeah, you can make a case for that. But overall, by and large, you can kind of count on your personality, your children's personality, your parents' personality remaining rather stable over time. But it does mature. You have heard of the Big Five personality traits, I believe. This is something that has been around a long time. These the Big Five. I'm going to get into it here in just a minute. And I have mixed feelings about it. It's called the Big Five factor model of personality. This is where they look. These are the 5 traits that you look at in personality development that determines if you're going to be happy and successful. Okay, so you got extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, and openness to experience. There's been a lot of pushback in the probably the last 3 or 4 years, especially from those who are introverts as opposed to extroverts. And it's just it's a different path to get to for success and happiness. I think part of the push is when people study the Big Five, they see introversion as a weakness, and it's not a weakness. There are probably more introverts than extroverts, and I'm just going to talk for a second what it really means. Extroversion means that you sort of gather your energy from being around people. You like to interact. You like to network. You're one of these people who like to be at a party. And when you're at a party, you're sort of, I won't say necessarily you're the center of attention, but you are with the people. Introversion means you gather your energy from sort of within. It doesn't mean that you're shy. It doesn't mean that you don't have social skills. It means that your creativity, your problem-solving abilities, you draw the energy you get for those kind of come from your time when you're not around so many people. Not that you're isolated, but that you're not around a big crowd necessarily, and you're not interacting so much. You might be an introvert, might be a little bit off to the side, observing people, and drawing energy from the reflection that you observe from people. It doesn't mean introverts aren't socially inadequate, or it doesn't mean that they don't like people. It doesn't mean that they don't like to go to parties. In fact, they do like to go to parties, but they don't necessarily want to be around all that people energy, if you will. And everyone has their own unique personality. So that's been the pushback from that. Agreeableness, that's there's not much you can argue with about that. Like agreeableness, it means finding a common ground, basically. Like when you approach something, even before a conflict arises, you sort of assume the best out of people, and that is a very important personality trait. We talk about it in workshops now. Like we're going to assume good intent. Like when you're working on something that is contentious, maybe working on a workshop about race, or working on a workshop about different sort of generations in the workplace, where you have your baby boomers and you have your Gen Xers. You come in and you have to assert, like, we're going to assume good intent from those who are not like us. And that's kind of what agreeableness is. Conscientiousness is being aware, paying attention. Neuroticism is, how do you get along? Do you have anxiety about situations? So you want to be low on neuroticism. And openness to experience. You have to, you just can't be stable and sit around. So anyway, let me see if this. Okay, so what we're finding out is, as you mature in life, your agreeableness increases, your neuroticism decreases a little bit because you've matured, if you will. So I encourage you to go ahead and look at these things because some of you have kind of gone through this part. Some of you are looking forward to it. Some of you have parents in this sort of middle age area right here. And I think that understanding human development and being able to apply it in your life can really be beneficial to you just personally as well as in your career, especially in your career in psychology. So you're going to make it short today. We're going to end it right here. And I'll put this on the recording. I'm grateful if you get a chance to watch it. If not, I understand things happen. But we're going to go ahead and stop it now. And I will see you later on in the course room today, I'm sure.